All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Schematic. I'm Ann Cotter, Director of Sales and Marketing at Top Floor, and with me is co-host Chad Spotty, owner of Top Floor. Hi, Chad.
Hey, Ann. Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well.
Great.
Yeah.
So our topic, our topic for today is around developing user personas and website journey mapping, which is a really critical first step in the website design process that easily and often gets overlooked. So with that, we have Isamar Virafuentes. She is our digital designer here at Top Floor. And she's going to talk a little bit about what the user journey mapping process looks like from a design perspective, some of the steps that she uses to create a user journey map, and then also just some of the common scenarios that we see with our manufacturing and industrial clients. So hello, Ismar, and welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Excited about this.
Great to have you. So before we get into the meat of everything, we are going to start with a little icebreaker.
Nice.
So do you want to give the context, Chad, for this question?
The context for the question?
Yeah. Do you remember what the question is, first of all?
I think the question is around travel. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Okay. Yes. The context for the question, I think, comes from the fact that I always tell Anne that she needs to get out there and explore the world before she has children and responsibilities like a mortgage or a dog or that sort of stuff. And I think, what do I always say to you? Anne, you literally could be working from anywhere and no one would know. Go work from there. So that's
and we're remote. So yeah, I really could go anywhere. So that's a little bit of the background behind where this question
well, sometimes
Right.
spouses with jobs hold us down too, right? So
yes,
take them with
that's
you
true.
if they're virtual.
We can blame
if they're virtual. Yeah. I'll blame my husband. All right. Okay. So with that, Isamar, the question is, and it can be based on your own personal experiences and your favorite places or best places you've ever visited. But where should I travel next and why?
Sure. I love Portland. So I think you should definitely go to Portland, Oregon.
Maine or Oregon?
Oregon. Yes. Okay. I have not been to the other Portland.
I've heard that one's great too, but yeah.
Yeah, I bet, it's on the other side. It'll be, sure, different for other things. But Portland I love because it's really artsy and the greenery is just amazing over there. There's these really nice gardens that you could go to and like these Japanese gardens, really pretty. So there's like a lot of sightseeing, and they have this like really delicious donut place called Voodoo Donut. And then there's always like a line of like 60 people every day just waiting for their donuts. And they have like their outdoor exteriors, like glittery brick. And it just it's a really cool place. It's a lot of weird but awesome things. So I highly suggest it.
That's
so
cool.
I will tell you, I have been to Portland before, but I would absolutely go back. That's a good one.
We have our first 3 for 3 on us all have been to the place before.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But I mean, that is a place I would go visit again. Even though like I want new experiences. We were only there for like 4 days, and I totally could have been there for a whole week at least. It was a lot of fun.
We took a trip in college, a road trip, and it was like late March, I think, when we were out there. And what amazed me about Portland is we went through mountains, and like there was a blizzard on our way to the West Coast. We were driving up through Montana and Wyoming and Idaho. And we got to Portland, and all of a sudden it was like spring. Like there was like flowers. Like it's like the climate there is really, it's like a rainforest almost. It was Portland is beautiful. I was only there a couple of days as well. I could easily spend a week, I think.
Yeah. I think it technically is a rainforest climate.
Really?
I'm pretty sure because of like all the precipitation coming over the mountain.
Okay.
it makes it like a rainforest because it is like it's so lush and green. Like even
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
January, we went in January, and I'm like, oh my god, there's greenery here.
Yeah, there
I
was
don't
flowers,
understand.
like,
Pretty.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really pretty.
Portland. Good answer. I like it.
Yeah, very good answer. All right. Well, now that we've got our icebreaker done with, we get into the real stuff, Ismar.
The
So
hard-hitting
first,
questions
yeah,
now.
the hard-hitting questions. To start, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do here at Top Floor?
Sure. So I am a digital designer, and that pretty much includes website design, website architecture, just kind of putting up like site maps together, which is like figuring out what pages belong on the website in what order. I also work on social media ads and Google ads. So pretty much anything that's visual, I've got a hand in.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of development sprinkled in here and
A
there. A
little
little
bit
bit.
here and
Is
there,
it
yes.
a more appropriate question would be, Ismar, what do you not do at Top Floor on a day-to-day
That's
basis?
true.
Right.
Yeah. And your background, like you've dabbled in, I feel like all kinds of marketing and advertising. Like you have a
Yes.
kind of traditional marketing background. You can build a website, you can design a website, you know, a little bit of SEO even. Like I know you don't talk about all those things, but you know a lot of stuff.
For sure. Yes.
Podcast branding.
Podcast branding, yep.
That's one thing.
Yep. And I will say too that in the time, which kind of leads into the topic for today, but in the time that you've been at Top Floor, you've really helped to kind of refine, I would say, our processes and introduce new ideas, which kind of just helps us to continuously improve. And I think all the background knowledge you have and all the experience you have really like caters to being able to improve our processes because you kind of see things from every angle. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really different from what I've been used to. So it's great to just like hone in on just like website design and just really improve on that versus, are you saying just kind of, I was pretty much scattered everywhere. So this was really nice, different new challenge, and I was up for it.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I want to start by talking a little bit about what user journey mapping is, since this is a process that you kind of took initiative on here at Top Floor. Do you want to just give us some background in a nutshell? What is user journey mapping?
Sure. So a user journey map is a visual storyline of every engagement a user has when interacting with like a service, a brand, or a product. And for example, in our case, how we're using it is the interacting with is the website. So we use persona journey maps to outline how like how one person as like they get on the website and all the way to the end, we just start looking at how, like things that they're doing on the website. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are things that are annoying them while they're going through? What things are working? And when we get all that information, then we can apply some ideas that we have on like opportunities for design, opportunities for development, opportunities for SEO, and how we can better the website in that way.
Yeah. So how I explain it to people is rather than just making assumptions as to how someone is going to use your website or how your target audience is going to use your website, instead, we are analyzing that target audience in the form of a user persona or persona journey map. Usually a typical project, right? Like 1 to 3, maybe upwards of 5 persona kind of target personas that we're going after that define your, entire audience. And then we say, what are the goals of that person, that audience? What are what's the end goal? Like, what are we trying to get them to from point A to point B on the website? And then what are the friction points along the way? And then, putting together that user journey map by Ismar and the team putting that together, they're coming up with, okay, here's how to most successfully or easily get them from point A to where you want them to end up at point B. And here's the challenges they might face along the way. And then that can guide the rest of the project, right?
Yep, exactly.
And what are some of those like endpoints? Is it always going to be like, for example, an RFQ or a contact us, or are there different kind of end goals based
Sure.
on the persona?
Yeah, it's really based on the persona. For example, if someone is there to at like let's say they're looking for a job, that is a different kind of persona than somebody
Sure.
that's there to buy one of your products. So they're going to have different things that they're looking for, so they may go to a different completely different area, may think other ways. So it's good to, like you said, have multiple personas, and it's also okay to like start with one, but eventually people are going to start realizing there's different kinds of people that are visiting the site.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so one of them, like I guess I would say for like B2B that I saw very like high level, things are always broken down in phases. And I suggest like at least keeping like three, at minimum, 3 or 4 phases that you can break out someone's journey. And then how Chad was saying, create goals for those specific phases. And when you have that in place, it's much easier to fill in all the other information.
That's
Sure.
that makes sense. So if I'm like, I think what I'm hearing you say is, so if I'm the target customer and I'm coming to a website, because in our world, that's most of the things that we're
Hmm.
putting a journey map around, I may be coming to that website multiple times with multiple goals or multiple journeys that I'm taking, depending on what I'm
Pretty
doing. So
much.
I may be coming to the website
Mm-hmm.
to buy a product initially or research a product initially and then buy the product. And then maybe after I purchase the product, I become, I'm still the same person. I'm still that same target
Right.
audience member, but now I want to look for support on that product or,
Yeah, correct. Or
Sure.
whatever.
installation guides and YouTube
Yeah,
videos of how to like, all right, I bought the product. Now I need to go back and see how they can help me. It could also be just starting up an online chat if that's also something that's available on the website.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
So
always
So it's
hitting all those pinpoints.
it's multiple personas, but it's also, what did you call it? Multiple stage, or you used the
Oh,
word, but
phases.
phases.
phases, multiple
Hmm.
Yeah.
phases within that persona's journey as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're layering the persona with, where in my mind, hearing what you're saying, you're calling it phases. I'm thinking like where they are in the funnel, the traditional
Correct.
funnel.
Yes.
So whether they're at the very top or they're already a customer, they're going to have a different experience depending on that. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
In your experience, just working with manufacturing companies and industrial companies, are there, specific personas that you see coming up a lot, or, from client to client, there's overlap in some ways, and if so, what are they?
There is, I guess, yes, it is very dependent on the client. One thing that I have seen is that recruitment one is a very important one for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people. And
Yep.
that's like career, like full time, part time, but also like internships. So a lot of people just kind of focus on
Mm-hmm.
the full time career and not really on internships, but that's like another thing. So even just splitting that already into two personas, you've got people that are looking for internships, and then
Mm-hmm.
full time. So you can even break it down like, yeah, again, you can have as many
Yeah.
personas as you want in as many phases. So that's the beauty of the persona journey map, is it's customizable to however big or however small you want this kind of research exercise to be. I could talk
Mm-hmm.
about phases. Those might be a little bit um, easier, or I
Sure.
find commonalities on what to ask for like a persona. So like
Mm-hmm.
the kinds of questions that then when you start answering them, you really start formulating these kinds of persona buckets. For example, let me just, because I have a whole list here. I'm like, there's no way I can remember all the list, but I've had it broken down into some spots. So like if you're creating a user persona, you're going to want to look at like demographics, job information, personality, attitudes, buying behavior, and also like any kind of like product or service specific characteristics. And when you start grabbing these kinds of bigger buckets, and you start asking some more specific things, like for the demographics, like where do they work? How, like, what language do they speak? Is it something that will have to be Spanish, English, other kinds of languages. What's their education level, job information, what's their industry, what's their title, what does a typical day for this person look like. So the idea is you ask all these questions because you're trying to figure out who who this person is. And sometimes I've seen people like give names to these personas. You can call someone Mike, like this is Mike, this is persona 1. And then you just kind of give just an overview, so when someone reads this, they understand who you're trying to target. Any kind of other things like personal attitudes, like what stresses them out. If it's something like, then like, yes, let's say if something stresses them out, it's just like decision fatigue. If there's all of the stuff that they like to, like, they end up doing on their daily basis, deciding all this stuff, making a website that is too inundated with a lot of information is just going to like stress them out even more if they're like, well, I just want to figure out this one thing, and then they start clicking around. It's just too much. So it's always trying to see how these characteristics can be turned into opportunities on how to simplify and make the website experience, or any kind of interactive experience, websites, for example, what we use, to make that much more of an easier, more stress-free experience for them.
Yeah, I imagine like the behaviors or the user behavior between different like generations, like if you think of Gen Z who might be coming looking for an internship, they're using the internet in a very different way. And that's where I think of when you said the decision fatigue, like being like just very clear and direct with the messaging and kind of what you want someone to do, versus someone else who might be more like a buyer persona. They're going to be, doing more reading maybe, or more investigating. So you have to kind of tailor it to those experiences. And
and one example of that buying behavior is, the kinds of research that someone's doing. So beyond your website, are they going to review sites, word of mouth? They're going to talk to other connections. They're going to look at Google reviews. So even pinpointing that kind of stuff to know that it's available for them. So if it's Google reviews and you know that it's really important for your website, for your company, and that you have a lot, maybe an opportunity is, adding a Google review feed on your website, or making it accessible for someone to go to that page much quicker. So that's like an opportunity that can happen just by answering that one question, if that's one of their touch points.
Yeah. One of the things that I think that's really interesting too is, and I think Anne, you and I talk about this a lot with Top Floor, is like we know who our target customer is. We know what that persona or those personas look like, but no one really has the definitive answer like documented down on what that looks like. And I think a lot of times when we get in these meetings and we're having these persona discussions with an entire team from the client side, pertaining to like a website project or a website redesign project, is every single time that we've done this, new information comes up, even if they've gone through voice of customer, all that sort of stuff. When you think about it in the lens of on a website with particular goals or tasks in mind, we always uncover new information or new things as far as like what they're trying to do or what their goals are. So that's just one thing that I think, a lot of times people think, well, I know who my target customer is, or I know who the persona is we're going after. Well, if you get really, really granular with it and you think about it as it pertains to your website or, a specific project that you're working on.
Yeah. Like when you actually put it into action and actually start applying that persona in places, then it opens up like so many more questions, or it helps you uncover a lot more information.
Right. And then you start to look at, go ahead, Ismar.
Oh, no, I'm like, it's an excellent experience also when the person that's creating these personas and the team that's creating these personas, where they're normally the target audience, and they're not there. It's third person. They're out there. It's ambiguous. So sometimes when people go like, what's your target audience? A lot of people just go, well, everyone. And then that's a very common thing that people say. But then when you start answering these questions, they're like, what? No, it's not really everyone. It's very specific. It's this person. Then they start really start thinking about it, because they're now in their shoes versus now, like, those questions, they don't really come up because you're not them. And then when you're
Right.
forced to be put in this like exercise, it really does. I mean, there's like a lot of information already in the company themselves, like stakeholders, people all the way from the ground level all the way up. Like everyone has just valuable information to put in this, and it just takes a
One of the
team
most like
to
common
put things
answers to
together.
that is like when someone will be just be like engineers or like procurement or purchaser,
Sure.
people in purchasing, and it's like, well, it's still really broad,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to get even narrow that down even more.
Yeah. I bet you that, Ismar, you spend a lot of time in those meetings, like mediating internal conversations between clients
Yeah,
and
the
helping.
questions help a
Add that to
lot.
that list of things we were talking about at the
Yeah.
start. Yeah,
Yeah.
mediator.
Add that
Yeah,
to her
questions help a
repertoire.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the other cool thing too is it not only helps to define, the target audience and all that sort of stuff for the success of the project, but it really it's like the first step in all of us meaning top floor team members and then client team members, like working together on something. So I think you immediately all of a sudden get that like group mentality, like, okay, we're figuring this out together. We're mediating
Yeah.
things. We're building these target personas or this persona journey map together. It really kind of
Mhm.
sets
Right.
the tone for the rest of the project.
Yeah. Super collaborative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, that is.
super collaborative. And I think there's a lot of internal, say arguments, because that's probably the best word, but discussion and things that happen on the client side for, sales disagrees with marketing or something along those lines as to like who they should be going after.
Yeah. It's kind of, I would think, almost nice for our clients in a way to have those conversations with kind of an objective facilitator who is like, can help kind of navigate the conversations and see all sides. And I don't know.
Right.
So I think that's a perk. Um, we kind of touched on some of it a little bit, but what are some of the questions that you typically ask in those meetings, and how do you kind of get to like the root persona and who that person is?
Sure. So let me go back to those awesome questions because there's a whole bunch. There's, but let's say once you have all these kinds of questions, which has to do with demographics, job information, personal attitudes, or buying behavior, I think most of our industries and the manufacturing industry, they really focus on like buying behavior. So a lot of them have like e-commerce websites where they're selling their products, to nationally, globally. And this is where the kinds of questions that I'm thinking of for buying behaviors, like where do they spend their money? Like who is like your competitor? If they were going from A to B, like, well, I'm thinking about company A, but I'm also looking at company B, like figuring out who your top competitors are, like this. What are common hesitations when purchasing this kind of product? And also like what kinds of research do they do when they buy? And that's when the Google review sites come up, word of mouth, in talking to thought leaders, and also maybe what kinds of keywords do people search to get those answers? What do they put in that Google search box to get what they want? So asking those kinds of questions. Do they prefer purchasing online, over the phone, or in person? Some apps you could use also like your Google Analytics to find some of these informations too. Google Analytics, Google Search Console, looking at your phone stats, also asking, what the evaluation process, like how long does the evaluation process take for somebody? Is it a week? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? And what kind of criteria do people consider when buying stuff? Is it the price? Is it features? Is it how it looks like? How easy it is to use? Like asking those kinds of questions. And then also you can even go more into like product specific characteristics, like why would they buy the product? Why would they hire you for a specific service that your company has? Is this their first time purchasing your business, like anything from your business? How can your business overcome their challenges? And ultimately, once you start answering a lot of these questions, the user persona, like you really start getting an idea of the persona that you're thinking of. So you would do this pretty
Mhm.
much for how many personas you want, or that not that you want, but that
That you
are
have.
for that you have for your
that you
company
need.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that you
Mhm.
need also. And yes,
Yeah.
and that's another thing. You could even do like current, like as is persona journey maps. But then you can also do future ones. So like you
Mhm.
may not think that like, well, we don't target this persona right now, but in like that is who we want to target. So we now you can do like future ones too. So then that
Mhm.
way you can assess what you currently have, but then also assess what you where you want to be.
Mhm. Do you find that it's difficult, like for clients to know that information in the first place? And I guess what would you recommend to a marketer who doesn't have an idea really of like how their persona is navigating or what questions they have? Who could they like go to in their org, or do you recommend they do like persona interviews, or like what can they start doing to understand that behavior a little bit better?
Sure. If they have anybody that has access to like analytics, that is
Mhm.
one way of getting that kind of information, which is more data driven. But then also contacting, like getting a team of like stakeholders from like different departments. That could be a manager, project manager,
Mhm.
engineer. So those are the higher ups. But then also you want to look at day to day people that do kinds of things. So just like getting a variety of many people in your company, that's one way of doing it. You could also focus on much more higher level questions if don't always you don't have to answer all of these questions. These are all just to get your ideas flowing.
Mhm.
Eventually you'll start seeing that even certain questions may not appeal to like wouldn't really appeal to this specific industry versus another. So it's just kind of customizing and asking the questions that you also want to ask and you want to
That's
be
what I was gonna
answered.
say. Just
Hmm.
start asking questions, whether
Mhm.
that be the
Yeah.
people in the company or customers or someone. But
Yeah.
as as someone in marketing within an organization, you better quickly understand who your customers are and who your target
Yes.
audience is.
Mhm.
And I would say one of the three core things that I put in like as a high level user journey map thing, because personas that really could also just it's pretty much like a branding project, also branding
Hmm.
exercise,
Mhm.
because your personas dictate how your logo looks like, dictate the styles of everything, how your tone of voice. So personas, like these personas, they affect all of your communication, how your social media like posts are going to look like,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
just different kind of communications that personas just really touch on anything. And
Yeah.
just for example, one of them is a user persona journey map. So that's one
Right.
way of using personas, but you could use it for pretty much anything else.
And I,
In
I get
this
this question a
exercise,
lot too from
yeah.
like a persona like branding standpoint. Like, do I need that to move forward with a website project or a website redesign or any typical project like that? And usually my answer is you don't need it. So we work on a number of projects where there isn't an official or there wasn't an official, branding and positioning or voice of customer or persona
Hmm.
exercise like done, right? And those projects can still be successful just by going through what I would call like our version of developing personas, which is kind of just doing some light persona work.
Yeah,
Either
persona light.
way, yeah, persona light, if you will. We're not a branding agency. um, but either way, we can develop that user journey map, whether you have very well defined personas in a target audience, or if you just have the napkin, the light version of it, just an idea
Mhm.
as to who you're going
Hmm.
after. That user journey map can still be successful because we can still look at those people and use analytics, like you mentioned, use historical data, use actual, tracking of the website to see how people are interacting with your current website, all that sort of stuff. We got a lot of tools where we can kind of fill in those gaps and still come up with that user journey map.
Yeah. And I want to add one other person, I mean, another group of people to get the ideas flowing for personas are your customers themselves. Like if
Mhm.
there's somebody that's like, this is an outstanding, this is like personified right here. Let's talk to this client right here and ask them these questions. And you know, that you can even do like just one, or it could be like a group of clients, just to get more of a diverse answers. But that's another excellent resource too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one other thing. Oh, sorry. Go right ahead before I change the
Oh,
screen.
I was gonna say, that was like the one thing I was like listening for is interviewing your current customers, because that's something that's helped us a lot too at Top Floor. Is it's kind of interesting, an interesting exercise overall is to do the first thing that you had mentioned, Ismar, which is just interviewing your stakeholders, interviewing different departments, and getting a sense for like who do they think your target customers are, like what are their personas, etc., and then comparing that to what you actually hear from current customers and what do they say your values are and why they chose you versus what your company thinks are their values and why someone should choose them. So definitely agree with that and recommend interviewing your current customers. Was there something you were going to add to that, Ismar?
Yes.
Okay.
It was mainly on the Persona Lite version. So if there are some
Mm-hmm.
things that you want to focus on, let's say we want to make on your website, and we know we don't have all of those answers, but we do have something, some things that you really can focus on for creating, like starting that journey map, is putting the persona in the scenario, what, and answering the question, what are they trying to accomplish? So yes, you'll have like maybe 1 to 2 sentences to get an idea, high level overview of who this persona is. But most importantly, what is the scenario? Why are they on the website? What are they trying to accomplish? And then once you answer that, then you go to what are they expecting on your website? You know, what does success look like in their mind? So, you know, like how are they going? So if you can figure out what the goals are, then everything else will just kind of fill in. Those questions are mainly also just to give more information on that persona to help with other projects as well. But
Right.
those are the main ones that we really focus on, like what are they trying to accomplish and what does success look like in their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Nice.
think it is good that you made that distinction earlier of like there's your persona, and that's like an umbrella, and that can impact so many other things, including your user journey map. So getting into the user journey map a little bit more, what are some of the steps that you take in creating that user journey map? Obviously, step one is identifying your personas and knowing who they are. So we've talked a lot about that, but then what are some of the other steps involved
Sure.
in developing that?
What compromises a user journey map has the phases outlined, the goals of those phases outlined, and sometimes even the duration of each phase. And
Hmm.
once you have that information in place, then you start focusing on each phase. And in each phase, there are certain things that we look for on all of them. So let's say in the phase, you're thinking about, you know, what is this persona doing on the website? And then on that phase, what are they thinking and what are they saying while they're doing those tasks on the website? How are they feeling? What are their pain points? And then once you figure out those, then you have also an area where you have the design opportunities or development opportunities on the website. So development could be something like, out of, you know, why we did this user journey map, we figured out that online chat is important for the buying process. So then now you can go to your developer, or when you're thinking about, you know, what you want on the new website, you can say we want an online chat feature on our website. And that is one opportunity. Another thing could be design opportunities, and that could be, let's say it's important for accessibility. You know, that could be a very important thing. Just highlighting that. There's also an area where you could talk about SEO opportunities. That's like the text. You know, the what is that page title? How is that going to read? How are things going to be linking towards each other? You know, we noticed that a lot of people like to go from product to product. So having, you know, it's just like different ways of just, when you figure out those pain points, how you can solve them in these 3 different ways, if it's development, design, or SEO.
Yeah, if that map then
Mhm.
ends up not only showing the, I guess, the structure, but also starts to get into some of the layout. When we talk about certain pages, what is that particular user in their journey that we're mapping?
Hmm.
See what I
Mhm.
did there? User journey map. Their journey that we're mapping, like what do they want to see on each one of those pages along that, that cycle that they're going through. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I think ultimately then it also can help try to drive some of the content. What are you going to be
Mhm.
including content wise on those pages, and the different areas that that persona is going to be touching on their
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah.
And this also helps guide your sitemap. So, what pages are most important to be on your main menu versus the navigation that's on your footer. So, just knowing what those needs are for those personas will dictate the hierarchy of those pages on your website, too. And also how
Mhm.
you navigate from one section to another on pages, too.
Mhm. I
Nice.
want to backtrack just a little bit to the phases. And you mentioned that each phase, which essentially is like different parts of the marketing funnel, each phase might have a different goal. What would be an
Hmm.
example of like a phase one goal versus a phase, I don't know how
Sure.
long you go, but phase four
Yeah.
goal?
Yeah. On average, I go up to four.
Phase 1000.
Yeah.
Okay.
So an example, I would say, let's say for an e-commerce scenario, phases, you would have, let's say phase one would be discover. And a goal for
Mhm.
that would be to get a high level overview of your company. Second phase could be research, and that's determining if your company is right for them. Do you have the solution for their needs? Then you have phase three, which could be purchase or buy, and that's the walking through the process of them going from the product page to adding things to their carts to checkout to getting a confirmation into their email, just following that process. Then you can also have phase where it's using the product.
Mhm.
But then that could be, this is where like the map could also guide away from the website because the persona it's still in this process. And the next phase could be something like how Chad was saying about like seeking support, where when you go back, you already purchased something, but now you're going back to get some answers. There's installation YouTube videos, maybe they'll call you, maybe it's online chat support or downloading PDF installation instructions. So it's just that, I guess that would be just a high level version of like an e-commerce scenario. But then there's also much more simpler ones where it could just be, discover, and this is more like requesting a quote because sometimes there's
Mhm.
e-commerce sites. I mean, companies that have products, but they don't have that selling feature at the moment on their website. It could just be, discover, try. I'm sorry, discover, research, request a quote, and then that could be the goal for that one is to fill out that form. So even if it's
Mhm.
not going throughout the entire buying process, maybe the goal for the website is just lead generation, just getting people to fill out that form. um, that's another important one as well.
Yeah, makes
Nice.
sense. Um, for kind of the last segment of this episode, I want to just talk about kind of like the why and the impact and why we do this. So, Chad, you had mentioned that we don't necessarily need a fully fleshed out persona for every website project that we do, but we'll still go through that user mapping process
Hmm.
regardless. But overall, I guess, what do you think the impact is in going through this, and what have we seen, I guess, since implementing it?
Yeah, I think one of
What
the
do you think?
biggest like things that we've seen, there's again, there's a number of things. I already kind of touched on it, how it kind of brings the team together. We all have a common goal. We know what we're going after, all that sort of stuff. But it really it limits us from just taking a stab in the dark. And in the beauty of it is, website design and development, if you build a really good website, it's going to work pretty well for all users, all personas. That user journey map, it'll work okay. You'll probably be okay. But I always use my kind of go-to analogy, and you guys are probably both heard of this enough, but is I kind of compare building websites to building houses. And so
Mhm.
if I build a house, I can pick, a floor model, and it's probably going to work for me and my family, and it'll probably work okay. It's going to have a bathroom, it's going to have, whatever, some bedrooms and what have you. But if I go through the process of doing like a user journey map, and I really tailor that website, in this analogy, that
Mhm.
house, to my specific needs and my specific family, you just think about it, it's going to work a lot better for
Mhm.
you. So it might have, if I think about my family, it might have two home offices, because both me and my wife
Mhm.
occasionally work from home versus no home office. The home office
Mhm.
might have doors on it because my kids are young and they're going to be home on certain days from school for whatever reason. And
Mhm.
you might have a podcast to record. It's getting pretty specific.
Yep.
My kids are not here today, so it is quiet. But so I mean, it just takes that, that product or that thing that you're building, that project, and it just makes it that much better because you're just very well informed. In that user journey map, since Isomar kind of created the process for our user journey mapping here at Top Floor, it's really just changed the level of project or website that we're producing, because now it is specifically tailored to meet literally the specific needs of your target audience throughout their journey in the buying cycle. So, and
Awesome.
it's
I feel like
and
that
it's
was
not
really well
just
said.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I
Mhm.
tried. But the thing is too, is it's like, yeah, could you build a website without it? For sure. But it's a lot better having it, and it really does touch all aspects of the project. It is, once we
Mhm.
do that user journey map, we are going back to that thing for keyword research ideas, content
Mhm.
direction. Ismar mentioned sitemap, overall just page layouts, what types of banners we want to have on pages. Should it be a video? Should it be a banner? Should we incorporate live chat? Should we even be doing
Mhm.
e-commerce? Is that something that your target audience is interested in? So it touches all aspects of the
Mhm.
project then.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, as far as understanding kind of like where there might be like friction for a user, like how do you identify that, Ismar? Like where, a user might drop off.
Sure. One thing that's actually pretty common is a huge drop off in the consideration research phase. That is one part where like that's where they decide if they even want to fill out that request a quote form, or if they even want to buy something. Maybe it just could be something that is like where the most information that needs to happen. That's where the reviews have to be. You
Mhm.
have to feel like, I'm saying, the user has to feel comfortable with their decision and confident with their decision. And when that phase has any kind of just wobbliness and they're like, I don't know
Mhm.
about this, then they'll just jump and they'll go to another competitor that can meet their needs.
Mhm.
So even if it's like, and this is like with the buying process, if they press something like a button and it's not doing what it's supposed to do, that could frustrate someone enough. Like people leave for much more smaller reasons, even
Mhm.
load time on a page. So this is the most important phases that I've seen is the consideration research phase.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
mean, there's no shortage of tools out there to be able to look
Yeah,
at where people are, dropping off on
dropping
your
off.
website
Yeah.
and what they're doing.
Mhm.
I think one of the biggest things for me, and Ismar kind of touched on this earlier on, was just asking questions, right? We talked about, a marketing person and how do they start to understand that persona, or, what that target audience is, and by asking questions, stakeholders internally or customers. Also, really good practice in determining, the content in your website, and are you getting people through that, discovery or that research phase, like Ismar was talking about, is are you answering the right questions that people are asking? And there's, again, no shortage of tools to be able to find out what questions people are asking. What are they
Mhm.
asking in Google? What are they asking in your own website search? What are they, look at your search console, see what types of keywords and searches they're
Hmm.
doing. The information is available to you. and then
Mhm.
take those questions and see if you're doing a good job of answering them. If you're not, well, that's a
Yeah.
good place to start.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. Yeah, I think and you kind of like hinted at this, Chad, but like using even just tools like Google Analytics to see where are people dropping off. In some cases it might make sense, like if it's just a blog and it's just intended to be here's the
Mm-hmm.
information and they leave, like okay, cool. But if it's like they're dropping off on maybe a product detail page or something that's a little bit more critical, that could be a really big indicator that you're losing people or you're not speaking to your audience the way you want to
Mm-hmm.
be. And I think another thing on like kind of the overall impact, I think everything that you said, Chad, was I think that's the main I guess reason why someone would want to do this is like just the overall experience of being able to collaborate on this and work with a team to figure it out. And then if you want to look at like metrics specifically, I feel like things like your bounce rate for one,
Hmm.
or I guess Google Analytics for it's different now, but your exit
Yeah.
rate or whatever it is.
Yeah. You
And
learned
then
that, right?
even yeah, exactly, where people are dropping off or like even conversion rate, you probably would hopefully see improvements on conversion rate or maybe number of pages per session if you're doing
Mm-hmm.
all of this correctly.
Yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
say. Mhm.
you only got a short amount of time. We're talking about this, user journey map. Like it almost seems like as we're talking about it, some like the buyer cycle or the entire sales cycle may be really long, but the act of actually finding out the information, say in that research phase, is quick. I mean, think
Mhm.
about when you're looking for something new. We
Mm-hmm.
were talking about travel, right? To bring it back to that, you're
Mhm.
planning a trip. You're Googling what are the top things I want to see when I go to Italy. Again, very
Mhm.
specific, but it's topical for me. So, what are the things I want to see when I go to Italy, or what are the most important cities to visit in Italy?
Mhm.
If you're not answering that question in the first 3 websites or the first 3 tabs that I, open up, like I'm already on to
Yeah.
the next thing if I don't see it right when I
Mm-hmm.
click on that page.
Mhm. Yeah. Attention spans are getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, I
At least
mean,
mine is.
right, right, and
Yeah.
it's why I have, 10,000 tabs open on my on my computer on a
Exactly.
daily basis because you're
Yep.
looking for the quick answer as much as you can and, keeping it up if it's
Yep.
relevant, coming back to it when you can, and then on to the next.
Yeah, and I guess one other thing I want to mention is when you create a custom journey for somebody on your website, you're making them feel valued and that they're seen and not just here's a generic website for our generic audience. You're already fostering that brand relationship with somebody.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good point, and I think that's another thing with the user journey map that we didn't even kind of touch on is, where does it fall into place? Because I think it's probably a whole nother podcast episode idea.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of personalization in general, and
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the idea of account-based marketing. Like, so now you've
Mhm.
got that user journey map created for that specific type of person that's coming to your website. Think about what you can do with that
Mhm.
information to then just target specific companies or people that you want to purchase from you.
Mm-hmm.
You could do all kinds of things then, just trying to keep peeling that onion and getting deeper and deeper and
Mhm.
deeper until you're targeting, hey, Ann, thanks for coming to my website. This journey
Yep.
was tailored for you.
Right.
Here you go. Like there should be no friction along your way to purchasing my product.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. Next step is automated personalized landing pages, SMR. So get ready
There you
for it.
go. Yeah.
Love it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you, Ismar. Anything that we didn't cover that you feel like you really want to add?
I think I am good.
Awesome.
Feel like
Great.
I covered a good chunk. I'm sure everyone's
Yeah,
gonna
that
be really
was
like already taking notes. Like this is awesome ideas.
I know. I was taking notes. I was like, this is really fascinating to me since I don't always get a lot of visibility to the dev and design side of Top Floor. So this was really
Yeah.
insightful for me.
And everyone get out
Cool.
and visit Portland, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oregon, not Maine.
That's the
Well,
Yes.
real
actually,
takeaway.
Yeah.
Maine's
But
probably cool too, right?
It's
Portland, Maine is
probably.
amazing.
But
probably
Yeah.
cool
we
too.
we can't we
Oh
don't
yeah.
know for sure.
We don't know for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, we're
Next
Yep.
not.
trip.
Next
Heard
trip.
it's
Yep.
great.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Ann.
Okay.
Thanks, Ismar. Bye.
Bye.
Bye everyone.